Hey, how's it going? Today what I want to talk a little bit about is traveling. So, traveling is a part of my job, and if I'm being honest, it's not really been a part of my job that I particularly have enjoyed. It's great to see new places and, whatever, but anyone that's in the fitness realm knows that it puts kind of a strain on what you're going to eat and are you going to get the same kind of workout in a hotel gym that you will if you're at home in your gym doing the things that, you know, squatting or whatever. I've gotten a lot better over the past few years at learning to manage and stay on track while on the road. Um, I've picked up a lot of tips and little things that kind of work and help along the way. A lot of these are primarily planning oriented, things that you can just do that can prepare you and keep you from veering off. But the last, so I want to share some of those with you. But more or less, what I really want to talk about is the last travel experience that I just had, because this was pretty transformative for me. I'd say it was the first time that I really 100% stuck to everything and came back from the trip better than I did before. So I really was on track and moving forward. You know, so and to get to that point, I had like kind of an interesting experience that I want to share. Anyway, first but to get to that point of how I got to that point recently on my last trip, I kind of have to back up. So, in a couple weeks prior, I had gone on a trip, and this was going to be a crazy trip. This was a trip where I was going to be in 4 cities over the course of 5 days, on like 5 or 6 flights to make it happen. So this was one plane a day, totally crazy kind of traveling going on here. So I made sure I was prepared. So I got all of the food that I could eat and put in the right bags when I packed, so that I knew that I would be able to eat my food at my time. And even with we are in facilities and there's tons of junk food all around all day long, but I just didn't. I stayed focused and only had the things that I had planned. And then when it came time to go to dinner with the coworkers, I ordered soda water or club soda, just with like limes and lemons, which kind of makes me feel like I'm indulging in kind of an alcoholic thing, or like I'm just like everybody else in a way. But it keeps me sober, so I make the sober choices of, finding something on the menu that I can work with, and substituting steamed vegetables for whatever and making it all happen. So everything was pretty on track. I kind of was rolling with the punches there, and I went to bed that night, or on the first night I went to bed in my gym clothes, and woke up first thing the next day, took my pre-workout, and went to the gym, had a great workout, still made it out the door to the next meeting at this like crazy early hour. It was kind of a strange field, but was making it happen and kind of rinse and repeat, doing the same things of like pushing myself through, and it was exhausting. I was doing it, but it was absolutely exhausting to constantly be like resisting temptation and constantly like I kind of also felt like, all right, this is a challenging field work or whatever. I have to stay awake. So you're drinking caffeine or in from the pre-workout too. It's just a matter of that. And like after like the third day or something, I really was just like having a hard time keeping up. I was trying my best to stay positive, but then ultimately what ends up happening is like I ended up overindulging, not at dinner or anything. I stuck to my plan with everything I had planned for. When I got back to my hotel room, ended up like overeating the foods that I had brought in the first place just to make sure that I would stay healthy. And I did this like 2 nights or something in a row, to the extent that when I got back, I had ruined some progress. And that was really kind of heartbreaking because I did so well with such a rigorous schedule, both rigorous and vigorous. But and then only to come back and kind of have reversed some progress. And I didn't get, everyone's frustrated, everyone's disappointed, but I, just took it, all right, I need to focus now and I need to figure it out. But what helped me, there was of course, this like degree of frustration. And how I think that I handled this frustration and this shortcoming from my last trip is what I think ultimately allowed me to have the incredibly successful trip that I'm about to talk next about. So what I did basically was like, all right, I'm going to go through all the things that I did well. Like I said, making sure I'm going to bed in the clothes that I can wake up in the gym so I can just like go and not even think about it. I'm going to the gym, having my foods, I'm staying on track. All of these things were like good. I handled the social occasions well. I did all of these things that like a year or two ago probably would have been like freaking me out or like major accomplishments. Those things, you kind of build these habits and you learn new tricks and tips along the way. So I did those things well. So as I was thinking about this, I was actually writing it down, and I find this to be extremely therapeutic, and this is like the critical part of the process. It's something that, I've read about in a lot of psychology books and like positive psychology. The happiness hypothesis was the last time I read about this. It's just when you write things down, you're able to find new meaning. So I wrote down what I did well and then took a really, really close look at, all right, what didn't go well? And more importantly, why? And from that, just writing it all out, writing how I felt about everything, I kind of realized what was going on. And it was that it was so exhausting and stressful to maintain the plan that I had set up that by the end of the night, I just didn't have any willpower left. You can't choose, Elaine Norton, I think, always says, like, you can't choose where your willpower is coming from. So all of those things at work and that constant traveling, hopping on planes, is like bringing your suitcase into the bathroom with you, all those little stresses add up. And by the end of the day, I was just so exhausted and I was trying to power through. And then you get to that point where you just have nothing left. And even though I was so worked up and so stressed at night, which made it difficult to sleep, like that I ended up like, I was tired. I was like, how do you say, like, emotionally? It's like physically tired, but like emotionally tired. I don't know what I'm trying to say. All I'm trying to say is I basically got so worn down trying to stay on my plan that in those moments of my night, I didn't have anything left to control like my behavior. So, 2 things I've decided to change. One, for this last trip, I decided that one, I'm going to bring foods that are good and on my diet. I mean, like good for my diet, macro-wise, and that I can travel with. And then I'm going to limit the amount that I bring, so I don't have too many extras. So I can't really just overindulge, that much, or I'm going to really screw myself over. And then the foods that I'm going to bring, though, I'm cutting out the Quetz bars. They're just too good. They were too good, and they don't actually fit my diet that well because I'm too low carb for that. I used to say, oh, it was fine if I just had the Quest when I travel or one a day or whatever. But I'm at this point in this late in the game, I'm like 1 or 2 weeks out from my dress fitting. I can't do it. So instead I brought cheese and protein powder. And that's not exactly the most like amazing thing to indulge on late at night. So that was a practical thing that I learned by reflecting on my sort of shortcoming. But moreover, what I realized is, you know what? I can keep coming up with these practical things, but if I don't address what really caused my plan to fail, then I'm probably going to fail again. So what I made a point of this next trip of doing was, if stress is the cause of my shortcoming on my plan, then I'm just never going to get stressed on this trip to begin with. So, you're not always in control of what happens to you, but if you really focus, I think you can be in control of how you react, but you don't do that by powering through all the time. Sometimes you need to sit back and really focus on relaxing. So on the plane ride over to the field work, instead of like going through all these, like, I had things to do at work that weren't that pressing. You always have things to do. And I could have spent the entire plane ride trying to do as much as I can, which is what I usually do. But instead, this trip, I said, you know what, I'm going to take time for me. And I wrote down what I expected would stress me out on this trip. Again, worked through this via writing, created that meaning. And in the process, kind of like anticipated things that might happen, how I might deal with them, what ultimately my goals were, and all those things, just thinking through it. I ended up writing for the entire plane trip, which wasn't necessarily my plan, but I felt really good about it. And that was kind of just a personal reflection that helped me, I think, on an unconscious level, prepare for the next few days. And I also did spend some time on the plane meditating, and that was something that I did throughout. I did it every single day before I went to bed. And I also kind of meditated throughout the day when I was in the bathroom, just saying. That was a good time. We only had our day was very, very busy. We were interviewing lots of people. I really had about 5 or 10 minutes to myself every hour and a half, 2 hours. So that included the bathroom time, and that included eating. So 5 to 10 minutes to do it all. And I would go retreat to the bathroom, just kind of like, think and meditate, go back to that place that I reached in meditation, and make sure that I was constantly calm. And rather than taking caffeine to be like, oh, I have so much to do, I better like be really up and running and whatever so I can focus, I was like, I need to bring myself down so that I can think clearly, and that I can listen to people, and that I can respond in a calm way. And by constantly checking my body too, one of my coworkers is really into the Alexander technique. It's kind of a method of relaxation and body awareness. And I haven't read much of it. I've read a little bit, but not that much personally. But having her there kind of reminded me to reflect throughout the day of, all right, what are your rhomboids are tensing? Just release that. You can observe yourself and observe your body, because that physical stress is going to eventually translate to your emotional stress. If you're cramped up in a plane and like feeling this way, and then you're like all day sitting like this, eventually it's gonna trickle down into these end of day stressors. So constantly consciously like relaxing myself and having this, like, addressing that cause and really focusing everything I did on keeping myself calm, I feel like helped me do work so much better. And then it also helped me execute my plan like totally better, sleep better, everything. So it was really all about remembering that sometimes it's not about this type A plan ahead, power through and execute perfectly. Sometimes it's about plan ahead, exert, the willpower that you need to, but don't make it more difficult for yourself than it has to be, and don't forget yourself and like that, I guess don't forget to refuel emotionally. That sounds a little cheesy, so maybe I should wrap up there, but I just think that it's important to make sure that you're checking I guess here's what I'm going to leave you with. So when you have a shortcoming, reflect on why. Don't be afraid to look at your failure and be like, yeah, this sucks, I feel bad about this, but what did I do right? What went wrong? Really get at the cause, and then learn from that cause and address the cause. Find strategies to get yourself in a different situation, but make sure that you're really focusing on the cause and taking care of yourself and staying balanced. So that's what I have to say today. I have a lot of other things planned that I want to talk to you guys about, so I hope that you stay tuned. I'm Haley Morganfit. See you next time.